Hey guys, what is up? This is Kazi from cleverprogrammer.com and we are on Codecademy part 13. Alright, so we're killing it. We're doing a very good job. We just finished part 12, which had to do with classes. And we started, well, it didn't actually have to do with classes yet, but the stuff that we're working with starts to get a little object oriented, okay, even though we're not dealing with classes here. It's kind of foreshadowing and building up to a bigger concept of classes. Up until this point, everybody who's made it, good job, because I know how hard it is, right, to keep up with all of this and to continue going. Each of these videos is long, but it's also giving you those fundamentals that you do need, right? Or even if you don't need it, it's just good to practice it and hone those skills. So let's check out, well, we don't need to check out where we're at because we know exactly where we are, right? We are in student becomes a teacher, which is roughly about 40% completion. So let's get through it. Start next lesson. And keep in mind, don't just think of it like, oh, I got to get to 100%, because there's some concepts that they go over later, like bitwise operators, which you really don't do that much when you're programming, to be honest. I mean, I never use them. And they have sections like detailing those. So most of the stuff you need is actually within what we're covering. So, don't worry about, oh, I really got to get to 100%. Otherwise, it doesn't mean I completed it. All right, let's save and submit and continue. I think the next one should be, actually we're done with this, so we can definitely just go on to the next one. I'm just going to click part of the whole. All right, now let's calculate the class average. Define a function called getClassAverage that has one argument, students. You can expect students to be a list containing your 3 students. First, make an empty list called results. Okay, so let's start doing what they're saying. Okay, and let's also understand what they're saying. So you need to get the average for each student and then calculate the average of those averages. So effectively what they're saying is, hey, get everybody's average. Right here we have get average for only Lloyd, and we're passing it in one argument. So what they want us to do is keep looping and getting everybody's averages. So get Lloyd's average, then get maybe Alice's average, and then maybe get Tyler's average. So replace like this parameter with pretty much Tyler. And once you get all those averages, average the average. What that really means is that, let's say Tyler's average comes out to be like an 85 in class with all of his homework, quizzes, tests, and everything. And then let's say Lloyd's average comes out to be 90. And then we have Alice's average come out to be, I don't know, 73. Okay. Then basically they just say that average of averages, which is just we're taking in everybody's average, right? So Tyler's average is 85 at the top. We have Lloyd's average, and then we have Alice's average, and essentially all we're doing is dividing by 3, right? Or the length, right? A better way to do it is we can create this, and then we can say that average of averages divided by len of average of averages, right? This is your final result. And if I printed out that final result, I'm spacing it out just for no particular reason here. Okay, whoops. Gotta put the parentheses there and end it. That was weird. I just opened the parentheses and never really ended it. What is it complete? Oh yeah, the sum. Sorry, we gotta take the sum of all of those guys and then divide it by 3, right? So 85 plus 90 plus 73 divided by the number of elements in that list. That's how you get an average, and we get an average of 82.66667. And if we wanna just round it all up, we can call int on that, and we get 82. We just round it down. All right. So now we know what we need to do, and now let's start working on it. So we're gonna define a function, get class average, and it takes in students as an argument. So basically students, it's gonna be a list of the students that we give it. So this function is expecting a list, and the list might be like this that we pass to that function. So then it can do things inside of it, okay? Cool, so we're expecting it to take in students, and then what does it do? Let's see, okay, it actually even says you can expect students to be a list containing 3 students. That's good. Now let's go to step 2. First, make an empty list called results. So I'm gonna do just that. Okay, so why we're probably making it is because we're going to keep appending things to it, right? We're looping, and then we'll keep adding things to the results. So for example, we might be looping through homeworks and all those and doing things, right? And we might loop through our first item in the list, which is Lloyd, right? We might get Lloyd or whoever, right? Alice, Tyler. And if we're looping through Lloyd, then once it gets the results, it appends an 85. And then it appends like a 70, right, for Alice, and then maybe it appends a 95 ultimately. So that's really why we're creating an empty list, because we don't know how many students we have. We can have 3 students, we can have 10 students, so that's why we can't create a list with already their averages in there. We need to keep appending, and that way the list grows dynamically, just in case there are more or less people than we expected. First, make an empty list. Third, okay, so on 3, for each student item in the class list. So for student item in the class list, where's the class list? What list are they talking about for each student item? Okay, I think they're referring to this as the class list, right? They don't really say class. Do we say class anywhere in here? Class anywhere? No. Okay, so I'm assuming that the students, they're calling it the class list. So I'm gonna say for student and students. So I'm looping through each student. So like if this was a list given to us, right? The first time the student would be Lloyd, and Lloyd is actually a dictionary, right, of all this stuff, and then we'll loop through that. So, all right. For student and students, calculate get average students. So, and then call with that result. So I'm gonna say student average is equal to student, I'm gonna call the get average function that we defined right here, right? It's our own function that we're using, get average of that student. And then I'm gonna append that to the results list. So I'm gonna say student average, right? And defining a variable here just to use it here, I personally in my code would not do that. So what I would do if I was coding this up is I would just simply put this call right in here, like that. Okay. But I'll leave that up there for you guys. Maybe it's more clear that way to read it. Okay, then call results.append. Yep, we did that. Finally, return the result of calling average with results. So I'm going to say return average of results. And we defined our own function called average as well, which takes in a list and then just simply gets its average. So very simple function. Okay. This is fairly simple, right? Now, I'm not going to go through the entire calculation of all of those. You can see the previous video. The end of the previous video goes through a pretty in-depth calculation of this. However, I do want you to try to go through the calculation of this and maybe type it out before you run your code. Type it out and do whatever you have to do, and know step by step exactly what happens before you actually run your code. But I will go kind of from a overview, like a bird's eye view of this. So let's say that I was to use this function, and I would do get class average, and I passed it, two students, Lloyd and Alice. What it would do is it would replace students with that list. Then it would initialize that variable, go boom, results is equal to empty list. And then it would go to this part, and for students in, and then students would turn into that list because that was the argument. So everywhere it sees students now, it replaces it with the list that we passed it in 67. The first time we're looping through, student will turn into Lloyd. Now we're going to call get average on the student, which is now Lloyd. We'll call get average on Lloyd. Now Lloyd's average, I'm not going to calculate it, but based on his homework, his quizzes and tests, it will go into the get average function, right? Lloyd will get passed into that function right here, and it knows how to take its average and then return the weighted homework plus quizzes plus tests. Okay, so that's what's gonna happen, Lloyd. And then let's say that this gets evaluated to some number, which I don't know right now, but let's say the student average was 78. So it'll actually get evaluated to a number like that. Now, student average will be 78, and you'll get the first result, 78. And then it'll loop the next time, and now instead of Lloyd, you'll have Alice, right? And then it'll calculate. Okay, let's try that again. Alice here, it'll pass in Alice to the student, to the get average function. Get average of Alice is going to get evaluated to something. I don't know what it is, maybe 87. And then, Alice is smarter, right? 87. And then we're going to replace this with an 87. And so ultimately we'll have 78. And then we append an 87. Then loop is going to see that the list has ended, and it will intelligently exit out of the loop. So all these lines that kept running back and forth will now stop, and line 65 will simply return the average of results. So what it'll do is it'll pass in where it's, the definition of results here, which is 78, which is a list containing two numbers, 78 and 87. Now the average function gets called on this list. So we're going to take these guys here. We're going to go up to the average function, pass in this list. Everywhere you see numbers, you're going to get that list. Now 78 plus 87, you get 165. So this whole thing is going to turn into 165. This is going to turn into 165.0. We're going to have now 165.0 divided by the length of numbers. Length of numbers is a list, 78, 87, and calling the length function on that gives us a 2. 165.0 divided by 2 gives us an 82.5, and this whole thing now evaluates to 82.5, and lo and behold, line 67, this translates to 82.5, and you have your final answer right there. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, good. A lot of things we have to go through there, but I want to go through step by step, go through that painstaking process so you guys really understand. I'm being overconfident. I didn't even hit save and submit code, so I could be totally wrong. See that? Oh, no, actually I had students there, so I have to remove this call. Let's try it now. Now I was actually right. What do you know? How is everybody doing? Awesome. You're doing great. Yeah, that's a good question. How is everybody doing? How are you doing? You know, I feel like I'm connecting with you right now. That was a good question. I should have asked that. Where are my manners? I hope you're doing really well. I hope that you feel well fed and you're sitting here and you're kind of relaxed. And now you want to focus on programming and get better and learn it and apply it in app development and mobile development and some whatever ideas you have. Maybe entertain people with creating rock, paper, scissors, tic-tac-toe. With everything that we have learned, you can certainly do those things. And you can certainly create some really basic apps. And yeah, cool. Okay, so let's keep rolling with it. Step 1. Finally print out the result of calling get class average with your students list. Your students should be this. Then print the result of that, and we are done. So now we're gonna use what we just did. So print out the result of calling get class average with your students, which are Lloyd. We're passing it in that list, Alice and Tyler. This is almost exactly what I was showing you guys. And then print out the result of get letter grade for the class's average. So what I'm gonna do is get class average is gonna be, results. So I'm gonna store that in the variable results. I will simply say print results here. And now I'm gonna say get letter grade of results. So it's gonna call the get letter grade on results. So let's say that we got the average of all of those guys with all their homework, quizzes, tests. Let's say the average came out to be something like this, right? And it's gonna simply now take this list and pass it into get letter, actually, what is it gonna do? Oh no, I'm sorry. We actually get back some number here, right? Let's say the class average ended up being 86 because of their homeworks, tests, and everything all averaged. And now it's gonna simply send in that number 86 to get letter grade, and get letter is gonna go like if score is greater than or equal to 90. Nope, it's gonna go down to the second else if statement. This is gonna evaluate it true, and it's gonna return B. So something like that is gonna happen. So this whole thing is gonna get translated to a letter, right? Some letter. We don't know what it is yet. So let's give it a try. Let's see what happens. One of the following is broken. When we try to use it, Alice, Lloyd, Tyler, students get letter. One of the following is missing or broken. We're going to use it. What is broken? I don't get it. We have Lloyd, we have Alice, we have Tyler. All these definitions are correct. Otherwise, it wouldn't let us go forward. Finally, print out the result of calling get class average with your students list. Your students should be that. And I did. One of the following is missing or broken when we try to use it. Alice, Lloyd, Tyler, or students. Oh, where's my students list? I feel like I should have a list called students. I don't have it. I think I have to create it. Students. Did it get deleted? So one of the following is missing, right? So they said one of the following is missing or broken, and one of the things that said was students, and they said students should be Lloyd, Alice, and Tyler. So, okay. Yes, Python achievement. Student becomes the teacher. We have completed this part. We're done with this. here's what I'm going to do. Since this was a nice little thing in its own, let's finish this video, and I will see you in the next part of Codecademy Python tutorial with Clever Programmer. See you there.